talking about the removal of Phillip Island from the Grand Prix calendar to be replaced by the Adelaide Street Circuit, which I think we have to agree is probably not the best description for it. We have to find maybe another kind of adjective there, maybe City Centre Circuit or Parkland Circuit, because it's not really a street circuit in the sense that we understand. I mean, it's not Macau, it's not sort of the Isle of Man, it's not a Formula One equivalent. I think it's fair to say that all three of us, we're not great fans of losing Phillip Island at all. It is undisputedly the greatest racetrack on the calendar. But I think the three of us can understand perhaps why this decision has been made. Can I just get your sort of first reactions? And Neil, you first?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, disappointed to lose Phillip Island. We know without question it is one of, if not the best track in the world, one of the most scenic settings in the world, when the weather's good, of course. But having been to the Australian Grand Prix for like the last, 3-4 years, I can say with some assurance that, I mean, it's not really felt like a massive event, especially the last 2 years that we've gone. You go there, you're not always sure if you're going to get a full day's running when you wake up in the morning. And that has been the case, I think, in each of the last 3 years at certain points of the weekend, which is very unique to Phillip Island. And that's not really how, I guess Grand Prix racing should be in 2026 with, TV companies investing so much money and expecting, set number of hours to be able to broadcast each day. Attendance has been poor, let's face it. I remember when we were in cars on Phillip Island last year, several people in restaurants were telling us that, strange sensation, there was still accommodation available coming into the Grand Prix. And I think we had 37,000 on race day in 2025, Phillip Island, but at no point did you feel like you were part of a big event. There's no point where you could feel the buzz. And you can understand why, because the circuit is sensational, but the facilities are pretty poor. And when you're that close to the sea and the wind is buffeted in, the rain is coming in, it's not really a place that I think you're going to drive 3 or 4 hours to go and visit, or 2 hours even from Melbourne when you're living in the closest city. You're going to come down and subject yourself to that. So I feel that it's sad, but also I can completely understand it because obviously we're aiming now in this new era of Liberty media ownership to be looking for kind of bigger, not just bigger attendances, but kind of more of like a festival feel. And you certainly don't get that festival feel down at Phillip Island. When you're in the middle of a city, it's a lot more easy to put on concerts, arrange big events where you can expect fans of, 100, 120, 150,000 to kind of be there. 1 or 2 reservations about the track, not necessarily because of safety. I mean, I don't think we should say that, MotoGP management has not lost its mind. As you say, we're not going to be racing in Macau. This is going to be a manufactured circuit. And I believe that the plans that we've seen online of the circuit outlay, those were like the 12th or 13th different, design that has been suggested. So it's not like some thrown together thing. This is something that the South Australia government and Adelaide have been working on for some time. And I think there might be 1 or 2 parts of the circuit which incorporate public roads, but Jack Miller was in Adelaide when this announcement was done, and he was pretty confident that when the thing is designed, it will kind of more be like I maybe envision it like Indianapolis, where you've got the kind of infield section, and then you maybe use like one of the streets where you had the oval, and then the rest of it's kind of this like man-made, maybe not very exciting infield design. It's maybe how I kind of see it. Instead of the infield, it will be like, a public park in Adelaide. So, we're obviously going to be replacing one of the best tracks in the world with probably not a very inspiring circuit itself, but the setting will be completely different. The setting will be cool, and you'll maybe be able to bank on
150,000 people.
Yeah, then you'll be able to bank on a crowd that is maybe 5 times as big as it would be in Phillip Island, which, you have to think is interesting. And I'm pretty sure that if this works, this will be a blueprint for MotoGP going forward, this kind of event. And when we go to new places, rather than going to somewhere like Termas de Rio Hondo, in North Argentina, which is like a 2-hour flight from Buenos Aires and really remote and difficult to get to, or indeed Buriram, where it's a 1-hour flight from Bangkok. We'll be seeing these kind of events that are probably closer to major cities, where you can generate a natural level of buzz. You don't have to travel 4 hours or 5 hours from the capital to go to some little town with a population of, how many people live in Buriram? 25,000 people, to kind of see a MotoGP race.
Dave, have you booked your ticket for this year yet?
I have not. No, I have not. No, I mean, first of all, it is an absolute tragedy to be losing Phillip Island, because it is Phillip Island Mugello. I can never make up my mind which is the best track in the world. Phillip Island produces some of the best racing.
Assen?
No, I mean, Assen, like, my personal ranking is, Phillip Island, Mugello, and then Assen, Silverstone, Brno. Maybe Brno a little bit higher than that, but I mean, there are two tracks.
Aragon, Neil.
Yeah, but Aragon. Actually, I think Aragon is a really, really good example for this, because Aragon is in the middle of nowhere. The reason they built Aragon is because they wanted to boost tourism to the area. They wanted to get more people in, and so they build a state. They build something to have lots of events around to attract people. But if Liberty are moving away, Liberty and the motorsports and was it MotoGP Sports Entertainment Group, as we must now call Dorna. MSEG, yes. If MSEG are moving towards wanting major events actually near, in or near large population centres, then
i.e. Valencia.
Yeah, exactly. Then that whole sort of idea of, if you build it, they will come, building a circuit in the middle of nowhere in the hope of boosting local tourism just falls on its arse. It stops working. So it's a really, really interesting. I mean, it's an interesting development. It's a tragedy that we're losing it. I think there's still lots and lots of problems with Adelaide, in the sense that they're going to be cutting down trees. They're going to be tearing up a park. They're going to be asphalting stuff. That is going to cause a lot of local resentment. I've had people, both on the website and via other means, contacting me saying this is not simple. This is not going to be as easy as it's being made out. However, like South Australia government is fully in on it. The Adelaide seems to be fully in on it. They have the supercars there. It's also going to affect the supercars, the supercars event. And it is, I mean, it's going to look much, much better. The racing is going to be very Balaton Park, which is not good.
Jack said the track gave him Balaton vibes, which I think is as low a kind of compliment you can pay a circuit outlay as is humanly possible. But he said, on the other hand, pit lane is going to be a 6-minute walk from the the city centre, which is, I guess that's one of the reasons for it.
Yeah, I mean, people could just might even accidentally stumble across MotoGP, which is I mean, they won't be able to miss it because it's so bloody loud. But yeah,
it's the AMA Supercross recipe. Hold a major motorsport event near a city centre in a big old stadium. So it can work. I mean, judging by the crowds that the Americans get for a series that could easily be international. But anyway, I think there's two things important to remember. Everybody was going crazy about safety. I mean, Phillip Island's not the safest track, you could say, on the calendar anyway, just in terms of, like Neil said, the climate that the riders face, the wildlife that you see streaming across the circuit. And of course, the circuit itself is incredibly fast. It is such a shame to lose it. But then I think also it's worth remembering that Phillip Island has lost the Australian Grand Prix. I don't think there's any reason that it could vanish forever. I mean, why not have a Pacific Grand Prix? That's popped up before on the calendar. There is a way to get Phillip Island back, and it did seem like the government were prepared to invest in the infrastructure and the facilities, the initial request that Dorna had been making for a few years without any success. It doesn't feel a little bit like the end of the story, more like a bit of an interruption. But I'm full of praise for Adelaide, because they seem to be going all in on this Grand Prix. And if they make it like a banner MotoGP event, then give something a try, give something different a whirl, let's say.
Just
I
two
think-
things very quickly, Ed. Sorry to cut in over you again. But yeah, two quick things. I mean, you mentioned there briefly. I mean, Dorna, I think since we came back to Phillip Island after the pandemic in 2022, were pushing the track to make some improvements, make some upgrades. And it was only at this 11th hour when there was such a real threat of them losing the Grand Prix that it seemed that if the Victoria government were really willing to fully commit to putting some serious investment into Phillip Island. That's one thing. And then another, couldn't help but be struck by meeting one of our very nice patrons, Andrew Dukes, who was at the Australian Grand Prix last year, Australian, and he had made some crazy journey to come down with his daughter, Alice. I can't remember exactly how far it was, how long he had travelled, but spent considerable money to do so, and said that the way he looked at it, and I think the way a lot of Aussies looked at it, was actually a lot easier to just fly to Malaysia and attend Sepang, and a lot cheaper than it was to go to Phillip Island. And he was like, you go to Sepang, you're going to get decent hot weather. You know you're going to get racing and on-track action across 3 days, whereas you don't have that sort of luxury in Phillip Island. So, I think that is quite telling as well.
What was also quite telling is that Aleix Espargaro, who we know is the world's most careful MotoGP racer, was actually in favour of it. He was sort of like saying, Phillip Island is a really dangerous circuit, and it's not just because of the wildlife. It's because, I remember Dennis Noyes telling me he'd basically charted crashes and injuries, and Phillip Island was the track with one of the lowest number of crashes, but one of the highest number of injuries, because when you do crash, you crash at very high speed and you end up going, traveling a long, long way. When you do crash, apart from at turn 4 at what is now Miller Corner or at MG, bottom of Lukey Heights, you are traveling really, really quick, and that is a real recipe for injury.